Good morning, everyone. Today is May 22nd, and we are here with Taj Mirage, and we have such an exciting feature today. So I hope that everyone would tune in. And if you can't tune in live, definitely hit the replay button. And for all those who are here, welcome. How you doing today, Tajah?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you today?
I'm good. I'm good.
Awesome.
So we're gonna wait a few seconds to see if everyone's here, and I'm just gonna check in and make sure that I have everything going. I'm so
Awesome.
excited for today.
Me too.
Okay. All right, let's start off with introduction. So my name is Marianne Francis. I am an LMFT and I own Transforming Hearts PLLC. So this month is May and it is May Mental Health Awareness Month. And I wanted to bring about different features, people who have different businesses that do things outside of talk therapy. Talk therapy is not the only form of healing and growth, and we can really tap and tune into that in different ways. And each guest speaker that I've had on really have been able to portray that in their own businesses and the way that they help people. And today I'm super excited about Tajah because she's definitely bringing in an aspect that we haven't talked about at all this month. So I'm super excited to introduce her. So I'm going to start with that. So Tajah, or Taj Mirage, is a tattoo artist, behavior analyst, body painter, published artist, costume designer, and cosplay entertainer based in Connecticut. She discovered cosplay during the pandemic. With all this newfound freedom, she started making outfit videos, not just your typical everyday outfits, one that were inspired by her favorite characters. Tajah has always been an has always been artistic, especially with ceramics, drawing, and painting, so she quickly adapted the art of putting together intricate outfits and costume making. All the buzz around her videos led her to expand her body paint knowledge and use it to dabble in fantasy makeup art, where she would create makeup looks based off animated characters. While this did grasp more of an audience, Taja found herself really diving into her tattoo career and taking a slight break from costume play. Her road becomes solely about tattooing, which was very fulfilling and fruitful. Now, 4 years later, she has become one of the most highly requested tattoo artists at her shop. She has also adapted her own tattoo style and specializes in ornamental work. But with all the success in tattooing, she knew a piece of creative side was missing. That piece was cosplay. Cosplay has always brought her joy and the freedom to express herself through her wardrobe. She knew it was time to make a comeback, and what better time than her for her 31st birthday? As a present to herself, Tasha took on the challenge of creating cosplay looks for 31 days. Now, being a little more than halfway through her cosplay endeavors, Taja had seen an increase in not only social media engagement, but in her overall mood. She has always said, doing what you love will bring you joy, and that joy carries over into the viewers. You can follow her journey on her Instagram or TikTok, Taj_Mirage, and she hopes to continue to pour into her personal art and be known nationwide for her creative looks and vivacious demeanor. Through hard work and unmatched passion, Taja continues to pave the path for the beloved art and lifestyle we know as costume play. I love it.
Oh, thanks. I'm like, oh, that sounds nice.
Sounds so good.
Yeah, like, okay.
I love it. I love it. So we don't want to lose sight of the fact that you are a BCBA as well,
Yeah.
right? But
Mhm.
I love the fact that there's an artistic side of you. And
Yes.
that sounds like it brings out so much creativity and so much fun, and as well as, in talk therapy we talk about play, like learn how to connect back with your inner child. And it's so interesting that you do things like this. Does that help you connect back to like your inner child as well?
Oh, absolutely. When I was younger, all the time I would be dressing up. And we didn't really have all the costumes, of course. Like, we didn't have the money to go and purchase all these things, but I wanted to dress up like the princesses, and I wanted to dress up like my favorite characters, and I would use bed sheets, or I would take my mom's clothes and throw on accessories, and I would do little fashion shows and walk out like, look at what I'm wearing. Or
Mhm.
we'd go and get my clothing for school, and I would say, it's fashion show time. And it's hilarious because I was always just performing for my family.
Right.
It's like, are you ready for me to perform? They go, yeah, go on. I start to perform. I put on my outfits. I finish my performance and they start clapping, yay. And I go, and then I go outfit change and do it again. So it's literally, I feel like it's healing for my inner child, of course, because when you're younger, you're thinking, wow, I wish I had this. I wish I had that. I would love to try this on. And now I can do it. It's like being a big kid in my 30s. So it's really
Yeah.
fun. I really enjoy embodying the characters as well. I did
Mhm.
enjoy doing acting. I did that when I was doing my associate's degree. I did an
Mhm.
acting class. I was so into it, and it just felt very freeing. And I noticed that it's really nice to kind of take a break from every day and like who you are as yourself and try to embody something else. It almost makes you kind of grow as a person because you realize different perspectives can help you have a different perspective of your life if you're embodying it through another set of eyes. So, I think putting yourself in someone else's shoes is really interesting to do that way. So that's why I really feel like dressing up and doing the cosplay, I'm really into it. I've always been into
Yeah.
it.
I love that. I love that you can connect the two, and as well as I was on your social media and I was looking through all the costumes that you had so far for the month, and
Mhm.
we still have amazing long months, or it seems like long months. So it's
Oh,
like,
yeah.
oh, there's still time. But
Hmm.
we were talking a little bit about your birthday party that you just had, and I can't imagine for everybody who showed up too in their costumes that number one, it almost looked like Halloween,
Right.
right? It had like that atmosphere, but because it's not, and because it was for your birthday, I can't imagine that helped them tap into their inner child just as well and made it much more fun.
Absolutely. Even one of my friends did a character from their favorite movie. So I'm just like, wait a minute, I'm putting together, who are you? Who are you? And they're telling me, well, this movie is iconic. How didn't you see this? And they're like embodying the characters. And I'm
Yeah,
just like, oh, I have to watch this. I want to put that on my list. It's just so cool because
yeah.
they all chose something I felt like they connected with.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what is so cool about it because you see a character and you're like, yeah, that character's so cool. I would
Mm-hmm.
love to be like them or dress like them. And I think that's just so cool to put yourself into that. Because a lot of people ask me, they go, is it just a costume party? And I say, for me, when I look at cosplay, I think about you choose a character, you're choosing something to embody. So I was like, you can't just show up in a witch hat. I'm a witch.
Right.
Like, are you the Wicked Witch of the West? Or. So it's like trying to take on that character. And I felt like everyone did a good job taking on their roles.
Yeah.
Hmm.
That's awesome. So
Yeah.
talk to us a little bit about, like, let's break this down, right? Because you do a lot of different things. So let's start with the BCBA portion.
Yes. So as far as like going into behavior analysis, I started that when I was doing teaching at the time,
Mhm.
and it was okay. It was mostly I was just doing like interim, trying to finish my master's degree in behavior analysis, and I started to really get into learning the behavior of the children I was working with. Right. So I'm wondering why is this happening? Right? Because we're always quick to assume they're just doing that because they want to, or they're just doing that because they're hungry. They're just doing that because, how do you know?
Mhm.
Right. So I would always ask, like, hey, what's going on? Like, talk to me. What do you think? And I started to realize that, oh, wait, there's a whole different world. There's a whole
Mhm.
different way to break this down and find a function of a behavior. And that's what behavior analysis is. A lot of times I tell people, like, I'm a board certified behavior analyst. They go, oh, that's cool. So what can you tell me about my behavior? I'm like, nothing. I can't tell you anything. I just met you.
Right.
I have to actually observe you.
Mhm.
And there's all these different charts and systems and everything to figure out the type of function. Like, what is it because of you want the attention? Like, let's figure that out. Like, but it's all about just really observing and trying to take that information and that data that you collected to put in different categories to figure out what is making this person act this way, right?
Mm.
So I noticed I was trying to figure out on my own when I was in that role
Mhm.
before I got my degree. And I started to realize I really like learning about behavior.
Mm.
And I connected with the BCBA that I was working for the school that I was working for at the time. Tammy Jackson was also my supervisor. She's amazing. She does like Fun to Be Free.
Mm.
So yeah, she's great. That's her business. And she basically like took me under her wing and taught me so much stuff. And I'm just like, whoa, oh yeah, I think I want to go to school for this. Like, this is really cool. So
Right.
having someone come in and show us like, this is how you figure out and break down this behavior. It's like, what? Like mind blown.
Right.
So now I feel like a lot of times I look at things in life and um, can be almost a blessing and a curse, kind of, because it's just like, why are you acting this way? Let's try to break it down. And it's like, oh no, don't behavior analyze me. I'm like, I'm sorry. I just kind of have like, it's just part of me because I know that there's a reason for it. We're not just doing things like just because, right? Like, so I just like to identify that. And I try to ask myself too, like, why are you acting this way? Or why is this feeling like that? So I think it's really neat to really just break that down.
Right.
And that's why I've been really into behavior analysis. And we've talked about eventually I will be putting that into becoming an author as well. So that's
Right.
really exciting down the road, of course, but that's
Mhm.
definitely on my checklist of things to do for sure.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And it's just again, it's an open field and you can learn so much just by learning and understanding why you may do certain things.
Absolutely.
And again, like a lot of things are reinforcing. So when you do
Mhm.
something and it may not be the greatest, it's like there's something still reinforcing that. And it feels sometimes it feels so good, but it may not be.
Absolutely. And you have to learn, like at our big age, right? You have to learn how
Mhm.
to reinforce yourself sometimes because sometimes we don't have the energy or the motivation to do certain things. And even before I allow myself to cosplay, I go, gotta clean this house. Or like I have to set this, I have to organize these or put these costumes here and
Right.
there, like first, then this. So I even use behavior analysis every day. And I feel like a lot of people do use it, but I feel like it's so focused on, of course, like where it is needed, yes. However, I feel like on our own as individuals, especially adults, like we should try to figure out how to manage our behavior and self-manage. That's very important, especially like for transparency, like I have like attention deficit disorder. So for me, I'm like, okay, how can I apply this to make myself be able to do this? So it's all about organization. It's all about knowing yourself. And I figured through behavior analysis, if people were to taught how to use it, right, they can use that to help themselves progress and to
Yeah.
try to change the behaviors that they want to change. So I feel like it's taken on your behavior and being responsible for it and just doing
Yeah.
what you want to do. It's all about you having control of your life.
Right. I love it. I love it. So how did you make the shift from this into tattooing?
Well, actually, interestingly enough, I was apprenticing while I
Oh.
was in school still, and I was still teaching at the time. So I had that role. Then I would go and I would tattoo afterwards, an apprentice. And at the time, it was pretty draining. I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can do this. But realistically, I didn't realize how much energy I was putting into not only studying for school,
Mhm.
teaching, then going to tattoo. Like it was so much on top of still at the time I was still focusing on doing cosplay and everything as well. So I noticed there was so much on my plate. So I said I have to start picking things off a little bit and revisiting as we're talking about now. But I slowly just segued into it. I got my first machine of my own on my graduation day. It was really actually funny. I graduated with my master's degree, and then they're like, "Oh, here's your machine." I go, "Yes, let's go." It was my basically it was like my what is it? My present to just start on the floor because
Mm.
realistically, you have to work about like 2,000 hours to
Wow.
become able to start applying to get your licensure, right? So like for me, I was just super stoked that I made it to that point, and I was like, yes, let's
Right.
go. I'm gonna tattoo on the floor. So once I got that, I honestly I kind of just had to put everything in line. There was also some personal things in my life that I was dealing with, and I noticed that, you know what, I finished school. I really want to start tattooing. I have a lot going on in my personal life. And I was like, unfortunately, I did have to leave the school that I was working with. And I did love it there. They were wonderful. However, it was not part of my journey for the rest of my future. It was time for me to step into my creative bag. Okay. So
Right.
personally, I just kind of left there, and I started, my first day was like December 31st of like 2020. So that was awesome. It was really cool to say that, oh, I started in 2020, even though it was the last day, but still. And you know, you bring in the new year with like a new craft, and it was just really cool. And I kind of just really dove in. And yeah, it was just wonderful. I was really excited. I had originally did a body paint photo shoot for the owner of Exclusive Ink, his wife, for when she was pregnant with their child. So it was really cool. I got to connect with them prior to, and now it's like, wow, I looked up to these people like, wow, they're so great with tattooing, and now I get to be in the same space and be a creative with them. So I was really excited to work with Xavier, and I was just like super stoked. So basically my segue, it was just, I feel like it's really good when you put your foot in a certain door and you kind of get to know people and you make these connections, and all of a sudden, like, your dreams are coming true, right? You get to create art every day. So that's how that kind of happened.
Yeah, I love that. And again, it almost sounds like it's segue into other things. Like, it's so interesting to me how, a lot of people would might say, like, I don't really have a skill set, or I know one thing. But what people fail to understand is that sometimes that one skill set, you can diversify.
Yes.
And you can learn how to diversify. It just sometimes we're just not knowing how to diversify, right?
Absolutely.
And so being an artist and being a creative, yeah, you can go to tattooing, but you went to body art just as well. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so for my 22nd birthday, this is where kind of like my body art journey started. I wanted to have a Coachella theme. And I was like, oh, you know, it'd be really cool if I had henna, right? Just like, because I've seen at the time a lot of people at Coachella were wearing the henna. And I got into that. It was really fun. I started to do like birthday parties. I was doing like marketing parties for restaurants and company parties and things like that. It kind of like blew up as well. And then I'm just over here making these designs from my brain. So I'm just like, whoa, like this is a lot, right? So I ended up really enjoying it. It was just, someone asked me one time about white henna, and I was like, I never heard of that. I'll look into it. Maybe it's a thing. I'm not really sure. I'm still new to this. I just happened to do henna tattoos on a bunch of people. So I don't really have like too much of the background, right? So I'm trying to gain knowledge as I go. And I look into the white henna, and it's like, it's body paint. And I go, oh, okay. Like that makes sense. I couldn't find this stuff anywhere, right? So I decided to play around with it. And like in the beginning, I started with acrylic paint. So sorry for whoever I put acrylic paint on, because I found out later after doing like my first exhibition that you should probably use actual body paint, right? Which is okay. We all have our things. We're all learning, right? So I started to use the actual body paint and just playing around like with my friends, and we were like taking pictures, and we're like, wow, this is looking pretty cool, right? So I started to do that. But at the time, I was also going to Central, and I was in the fashion design club. And there we had a lot of different segments. At the time, I was not only doing the body paint, but I was crafting wings for, they had a lingerie scene where you go like kind of almost like Victoria's Secret. And I say, hey, how about we have some wings, right? So we had those on, and they're walking through, and I started to do like photo shoots for those. We ended up breaking those things apart at one point and using them for photo shoots and adding the paint. So then now we're adding two different elements, the 3D element versus the 2D of the body paint, and combining the two and creating these really awesome looks. And from there, I started to do fashion shows. I started to get more calls for more bookings. I've done photo shoots. That's where my art has been published in books. Like, I was just very excited for that. If you have ever heard of Crowned, it's a coffee table book, as well as Glory. So that's with Karen and Regis Bethencourt. So they're really awesome. So check that out. You can find that on Amazon, also in the Barnes & Noble and everything. But doing work with them, I was like, wow, you can literally create art and make it into a book. That's insane. So
Mhm.
it's like everything, like you said, kind of just connected and just kept snowballing into this like awesome effect of just
Mhm.
creating and doing more and reaching out to people. Like I got to work with them just from sending an email, you know, like I was like, hey, you know, you guys are amazing. I would love to work with you. And that was years ago, but it brought me to this part of my life that I'm in now, which I think is just really cool. So I feel like everything just kind of connects, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's like my body paint kind of journey. And right now I'm just trying to figure out ways how I want to use it besides doing fantasy makeup art, which was my next like leg of the
Yeah.
journey, which is going into that and just applying it to myself because, you know, we didn't have any connection with people considering like we went through COVID and everything like that. So I'm like, I'm going to body paint myself. Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, now it's just about figuring out what I want to do with it next. But it's nice to have that skill because now when I focus on my ornamental work and everything with tattooing, it all connects because I've done a lot of that work before. A lot of things come from my mind, which is why when I mentioned Taj Mirage, right, I tell
Mhm.
everyone, well, they go, how did that come up? And they're like, Nicki Minaj. I'm like, no, not Nicki
You
Minaj,
know.
but Taj Mirage, because when you see a mirage, it's something that's not there, right?
Mhm.
And for me, I feel like that's a lot of my art. Like I see it vividly in my mind, but it's not like something that I can explain or show someone until I create it. And that's where that kind of comes from. So I just been doing that this whole time and it's been working well for me. And it's just really awesome how like it turned in from like henna all the way up into this wonderful journey. So
And I love that. And I love what you say about basically like sometimes not everyone can see your vision because number one, it's your vision. And sometimes other people don't have the same vision or they don't have that creative such a creative space to be able to see what might be the result of it, right? I remember when we were renovating our house and it was like all tore up. Like when we bought it, the previous owner had tore it all up. And so me and my husband were like, but we can see this and we can see this. And people are like, I don't think so. But when you have an idea and
mhm,
this vision, it can turn out so well, not everybody else would see it.
right,
So to me, the message is keep going with your vision because even those other people may not see it, you see it. And
absolutely.
that's what matters because this is your dream and this is your path. So it's about you kind of walking in that and just holding your head up and saying, it's okay. I'm just going to keep pushing forward. They'll see it at the end because some people, again, do not have that vision. And that's okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, I feel like I run into that too each day, even down to doing tattoos. I just worked on a
Mhm.
piece that took like about 27 hours to do.
Wow.
But in the beginning, I said, hey, I'm going to start. It's going to look a little crazy in the beginning because you can only put so much. Like it was a huge back piece. It was wonderful. He ended up loving it. I loved
Mhm.
it. Everyone thought it was amazing. But yeah, you have to put the foundation in,
Mhm.
right? So it's like, this is going to be beautiful. I promise you at the end. But right now, we only have about this many hours and this is as much as I could
Right.
do, right? So it's like, you're just gonna have the lines. You're not gonna really be
Mhm.
able to put that together. But once it started to come to life, like you can just see like their faces light up and they're just like, whoa, like I was trying to understand from your drawing, but now this is out of this world, right? So I think that's even awesome too, because everyone has to like come in and trust me, right? They have to trust
Mhm.
my vision. I take what they tell me, I apply it, I create it, I show them. And honestly, most of my designs are just like lines on an iPad, right? There's no way I can really just show you exactly what's going to look like as a tattoo, but I just appreciate that trust because they put it into me. And even down to the body art, there's no sketch.
Yeah.
It's just like, you are the canvas. Here I come with all this art. I'm just going to put it on you. And each time everyone's just like, wow, I just wish I could live in this, right? I mean, with tattoos, you can, yes, but
Right.
not the body art.
Right.
But it just feels really good because just like those people really, they see what I've done, they trust my vision. And even I have to trust in myself,
Mm.
you know. And I feel like being creative is another part of me working through things that I have to work through, which we talk about separate from talk therapy, right?
Mhm.
So like personally, I'm just applying the things that I need to work on through my art, and I
Mhm.
just think that's really cool too.
Yeah. So that's a great segue into again, like going back to things that are outside of talk therapy that can also create a sense of healing and growth for people. And I think, again, when people don't have that vision of understanding how certain things can help us heal and grow, can you talk a little bit more about that aspect and allowing like your creative juices to kind of go and create a sense of healing and growth, even from your own personal experience?
Yes, absolutely. So for me personally, I started to learn a lot about myself through
Mhm.
talk therapy, right? I started to learn like it's good to work on boundaries for yourself. That was one of my big ones, right? And not being a people pleaser, that was another one of my big ones, right? And I think another reason why I even took a break from doing the social media and the cosplay at one point, because when my videos were doing extremely well,
Mhm.
like I've had like millions of views on videos, right? And that means thousands of comments and thousands of requests and thousands of, and I'm like, and I would have all these drafts of I have to do this, I have to do that, I have to, and you know what? No, I don't. I don't have to do it. Like I can pick
Mhm.
some. That's great. I love the engagement. I appreciate the
Right.
following. I appreciate people paying attention and being excited like me. But in the same breath, I can't just choose this character because everybody wants me to do this character, right? Do I connect with this character? Like you have to kind of almost be selective with that because you can fall into that people pleasing because you see that engagement. You want to please your audience, right? And it's just like you can do that in a way of your own, and
Mhm.
that's something I had to kind of learn, just like even like my personal life. Like if I want to do something for someone, I totally can, but it's not going to be the end of the world if I cannot. And
Right.
the thing is, people are going to appreciate that because they're going to know it's coming from an authentic place, right? It's coming from like, you want to do this. Like,
Mhm.
and that's something I feel like I've worked through. And that's a boundary of my own instead of just being like, I have to. And it's like, take a step back. And this time go around, I'm doing all the characters I want to do. You
Right.
know, I will definitely take requests. I would
Mhm.
appreciate to see your request and what people would love to see me do, of course, but I can be selective. I can choose. And maybe down the line, if I choose I wanted to go into something else, I can. But I started to watch a lot of shows, new shows and everything. I was even randomly watching a anime that I'm really into now, Jujutsu Kaisen, and I'm like, oh, I want to do all these characters. But I used to get requests for those, and I was like, I haven't seen it, right? In like Five Nights at Freddy's, like, oh, can you do body paint like this? And I'm like, what's that? My niece and nephew tell me about it, and
Mhm.
I start watching. I'm like, oh, this is cool, right? Or just learning where things are coming from. They're coming from games, they're coming from movies, they're coming from shows, and it's like I
Mhm.
can allow myself to take the time to take in that information instead of just having to hop on it because it's a
Right.
request. People don't necessarily need immediacy, and I think that in my brain, like I have to, again, going back to people pleasing, I have to respond right away. I have to do,
Mhm.
and I noticed that that affects my mental health, especially with all the things I do have going on. Like I'm very busy, right? So it's like I have to learn how to kind of weigh everything out, see what works for me, and just like take my time with it. And I'm sure that people will appreciate it because that's when I'm going to give them the best like content, the best creations that I can do.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely I feel like working and creating and doing art, doing the cosplay, doing the wearable art. I just did this wonderful shoot for my birthday with a
Mhm.
photographer, Rachel. It was beautiful. It came out so good. And it's
Mhm.
just because I allowed myself to take that time to
Yeah.
create it, you know? Like I took something else I've done before and I kind of broke it all apart. And I was like, no, this is a new era of life. Like, let
Right.
me put this together in this way. And it just came out so wonderful. And I just feel like giving yourself grace and giving yourself time and allowing yourself to do truly what you want to do when you want to do it is one of the most healing things I could have ever experienced.
I love that. I think what you're talking about is so important. And just simply off the fact that, especially in a world of social media where people feel like things, well, number one, things are instantaneous, right?
Yeah.
In this new age. But as well as people are seeing these things and they're just like, you feel compelled to have to appease to the masses, right? Especially when, again, like kind of turns into like content creator, like you, in order to promote a lot of your business or what you do, and it's almost like you have to create the content. And a lot of times that can become so draining, that can impact your mental health just as well, especially if you're trying to appease people all the time and doing something like that. And being able to say, well, how do I want to show up my most authentic self? And that might be just being selective and picking and choosing the things that I want to do, because that is what's going to exude like your own energy, your passion, your creativeness. doing something that everybody wants just because they want it, you might be able to see that. That's the thing that you might be able to see through. It's just like, yeah, I did this, but it's not the energy that you would bring forth to something that you love and enjoy. And I think a lot of us can relate to something like that.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing that, because I do think that is imperative to people's not only mental health journey, but as well as understanding that some of this stuff, it's like, it's something that is real, and it's something that a lot of us go through and not understand why we're burnt out, why we're stressed out, because a lot of times we're appeasing people, and a lot of times we think we have to do it. And the answer is no, you don't have to.
Exactly.
So that's awesome. Is there anything else that you would like to kind of bring forth to the audience at this time?
I don't necessarily have anything really to
Mhm.
bring forward. I'm just continuing on with my journey, finishing out my 31 days strong. And I will also be posting about some giveaway. So
Okay.
definitely check out my Instagram. If you're really into tattoos, I suggest paying attention to my Instagram. That's all I'll say for that. But
So
yes.
so that's I'm gonna put it in the chat so that people can also have that. That's the Taj_Mirage. And tell them, is there any other place they can find you? Instagram and TikTok, Taj Mirage. Is there any other?
Yeah, so Taj Mirage is for my Instagram and my TikTok. Yep, Taj_Mirage. And then if you want to check out my tattoos, you can go Taj_makes magic on Instagram as well. But it's in my bio for Taj Mirage as well. So not too hard to find.
Okay. Nice, nice. So, listen, thank you so much for coming on here today. I think you've brought like a different sense and a different light to understanding healing and growth outside of talk therapy. And it's so nice to see like this creative side. I can't wait to see where this creative journey continues to bring you, because that is something that is important. And as a therapist, for me, I'm just like, oh, that's really tapping into all these other parts that, number one, some people might be ashamed to tap into, but you've like dove right into it, and you're just like, no, this is me, and this is probably the best version of myself too, that I have this degree as well, and I want to do things here, but I also have these things that I it almost sounds like that's more of who you are.
Absolutely. Yeah, I feel like I'm getting more and more close and close to my true self each day. And it's just literally just doing what I want to do. And that's one thing I can say, if you're going to take away from this whole conversation, really like tune into things that you love and literally do what you love. I have a sign like that right in my station and at the shop. And I always just tell people, like, you got to go for your dreams and what you want to do. Even if it doesn't sound the best to other people, it doesn't matter. It's really what you want and what makes you happy and what brings you joy. And you're going to be so much happier in life. You're going to excel. Nothing will hold you back if you just keep going forward what you want.
Nice. I love it. I love it. So thank you again, Tajah, for being on here today. And
Of course.
thank you, everyone, for joining us here on live and in the replay. And don't forget to tune in on Friday, where I go live with another